filmmakers that I look up to have demystified filmmaking, and I think they demystified it by making whatever the hell they wanted to make. If you have an idea in your head of what it could look like, go the most direct route to that and be daring.
In this episode of the Reframed Podcast, we hear from director Freddie Leyden. As a proud Irishman, inspired by classical art history, he's created a distinctive body of work, and in doing so, has learned some important lessons along the way.
Messing up, failure, it not working out, it's just helping you get to where you need to go. Because to mess up, I think you've probably done something good. Like, I've had things pulled, I've upset people with what I've created, and some clients unhappy, pulled, scrapped. I'm delighted, in hindsight. Delighted, because I was trying at least.
We break down his award-winning project of a lifetime. We talk about the word vision, what it might mean, and how to cast it onto others. Freddie even tells us how he really feels when it comes to editing his own work. Do you like being the one to bring it all together in the end?
Do I like it? It's one part of the process that I struggle to let go of. I think the edit's so important because it's the thing that you can break things in the edit and you can go too far. Do you like it?
So Freddie, we'll get into the grand scheme of things when it comes to you and your work, but I'd like to break our format and talk to you about your award-winning piece, Santo, featuring legendary choreographer Seva.
Yeah, it's really close to my heart. There's definitely a moment when we were making Santo where I kind of lost my wherewithal of what was guiding us, because it felt, flow state. What started off as a collaboration between a choreographer and a dancer with the reference material, we then kind of organically gained amazing collaborators with VFX, our cinematography, the lighting, the music. I'm really proud of it, and I'm really proud of everyone who was involved in it, and certainly the most significant thing I've ever worked on so far.
I have to ask about this shot.
I love that shot too. Yeah, that's that perfect synergy between the architecture and then his willingness to be part of the artwork, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Botis definitely influenced and took complete charge of the choreography, but also he's such a great collaborator, because when it came to the filmmaking, if I had drawings, sketches of shots and places I wanted him to be, he would throw himself into it, and it would be a collaboration between just like how he would place his body and the drawings I would do. And the drawings I was doing were all referencing religious art, and I've always loved the circle around saints' heads. So when I saw that on the floor, because that's shooting down on this beautiful marble floor, and it's just what I saw. I just saw that circle. We need to put him in it. This flash cut sequence you have of these Greek and Roman sculptures. Did you just shoot a bunch of that? That's a combined effort of images I had, photographs I might have taken on just from my phone, because I love, very lucky here in Europe. You can kind of visit all these amazing places, and there's an abundance of statues that you can I just took a lot of pictures on my phone. And then the beauty of this one, it's so fast, you don't necessarily need the most high quality image to use.
Right.
And then combined with that, there's Getty images, there's online. We're all tracking an eye line basically. So it was a basic kind of a collaboration of getting as many images as possible that felt part of the piece, but also fit this kind of template we needed to make that effect work. I want to dive right into the choreography. Obviously, we're working with the talent of Seva here, but I noticed that there's this choreography in a lot of your work. When it comes to this piece in particular, how did it work between you and Botis? Did you have say in the exact movements that he was doing, or was that all him? Yeah, so this was a really fortunate bit of the shoot. We actually had extra time before we were shooting in the kind of more elaborate location. So we booked a studio space, and I printed out, basically I have a huge board behind the camera of all these specific Roman and Greek statues. So each of those poses is Botis's live interpretation of the poses the statues are in. It was amazing to see. He literally just went, I was like, this one, this one, this one. And then he had this amazing way of kind of like transitioning from one to the other. And he would almost perfectly emulate it, but also make it his own as well. And then we were able to we found this really fun flow. Like that pose he's doing there is a really famous pose that
it literally means something. It's in the Roman Empire, it's, you know, a sign of victory or of journeying on. They're all specific bits of storytelling, and that's Bodis's version of it. So he's looking behind his eyeline there. There's a board with me, kind of basically pointing at a different statue. And it was really, I can only tell you, it was really fun. It was really fun to be like,
wow.
and move, and move, and move. And he would just like find these poses. It was really, 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 it was my favorite bit of the day, actually.
Wow. So you did a lot of prep work in order to like set yourself up for that.
Yeah, very much so. I think the one thing we had was tons of, there's so many references from antiquity, we just overloaded. There must be 1,000 reference images to influence his choreography. And what I always wanted was for it not to be, you wouldn't specifically know he was emulating those poses. I wanted there to be so many that you just feel it. You feel it wash over you. Like it just feels like it, rather than being, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing that. And the best way to do that was just overload the choreography with all of these different poses.
I mean, also, there's some moments in this where not only is he moving, but he's emoting like an actor would. So what was it like working with him in this way where you needed him to emote emotion in his face, like say for this shot?
Yeah, we shot an awful lot of this all in one day, and that required him to exert a huge amount of energy, and it was all very, very planned as well. So for him to remember every single thing we did in relation to the camera, but then also there's a real thread of his own personal story within the piece. And I think ultimately that's the special thing about it. There's a lot of impressive visuals, but it's his performance throughout that really carries it. And that is in large part just due to his true artistry. Throughout the day, he was in a pretty impressive state of zen, the zone. There wasn't much, until the very end of the day, he didn't get out of whatever place he needed to get to bring across that storytelling. And I think my only role as a director was to respect that and to kind of like create that space around him to make sure that wasn't broken. Bodis is, a really, really unique talent. And exactly that, he was acting, he was in the zone. And this is my favorite shot.
I think the other element that really sets this piece apart is the visual effects. Like, you took this wildly moving subject and placed them into this world of surrealism. And I gotta know, how much of these amazing effects that you created were premeditated, and how many of them were found along the way in the edit?
I would say that predominantly they're all premeditated, purely because of the specificness of the architecture we're working in. This shot particularly, so working with the amazingly talented McLaughlin brothers, Porrick and Kevin McLaughlin, who are also Irish, and really wanted to work with them. They're hugely inspiring filmmakers and special effects and VFX specialists. I think the thing that affected the VFX and why it's so much a part of it from just pure from a formalistic point of view is because we were not only were we referencing statues, we were referencing 14th century medieval books. And there's a couple of them you'll see dotted throughout. But within those books, there's all this repetition of figures. And the way they would kind of figuratively display people back then, they would just repeat the same person again and again. And that just felt like too much of an opportunity to miss from a purely formalistic point of view. And then when you add that with actually, we have the benefit now of using VFX to, when you genuinely are repeating the same character, to add this whole element of story of like breaking through different moments of your life and playing with time. So this specific scene, there's an amazing ship robot music video from maybe 10 years ago. And I always loved that music video. And this effect had been done previously, or something similar, of, returning to your figure. But then working with Kevin and Porrick, they had suggested, instead of leaving a trail behind, which was what the effect I was imagining, they suggested we reverse it. And he comes into the figures that are already there. And then that immediately was super inspiring, because then it feels like it's in a huge museum, or in ancient Rome, they would have these grand halls filled with sculptures. And then we were able to make our own version of that, just using time and an analog zoom, and kind of create the hall and then have him eliminate it. So it's a perfect storm of the wanting to use VFX and then using the references from the past to inform it.
It's also, I think, like one thing that really makes this work is this camera movement that you've added.
From a really nerdy point of view, there's two zooms going on, because this is why frames are so good. If you want to get nerdy, this is all one shot. To create this is all one shot. So in real time, we have to see him down the bottom. So that's the same shot as you see at the end. And we're using, I love those Barry Lyndon Kubrick zooms. So that was one of the references, and we planned it out that we would start zooming from down there and then pull back at exactly the time he would reach over here. These left and right zooms that follow Bodis within it are added afterwards, but the effect genuinely, I don't think, would work without the combination of the physical analog zoom of our focus puller pulling it back, and then the added left and right that we did in post. So yeah, I think that's a bit of magic that's in this shot.
I mean, in this shot for sure, but there's a lot of magic in this whole piece. I want to talk about this here. What a composition.
Yeah, so this is one shot that from my drawings was planned as that is the location, the left to right, one plane was the shot. So the actual plan shot was just like one line of columns perfectly composed within the center of the square, and then we would leave the figures in the center. When we got to post, Kevin and Porrick McLaughlin are geniuses, and they managed to play with the timings in such a way that we were able to duplicate it all the way up seamlessly, and then play with the timings so that each line is in its own timeline, and it just really organically feels just way more vast than it ever could possibly. It's just one of those, wonderful, happy moments when you're working with these incredibly talented collaborators and they suggest something that just blows your mind.
Yeah, I mean, dude, just to watch him like sprout out of himself here is just so freaking cool.
Yes. It's crazy, right? I gotta say, what Bodis is doing there in the moment, he to a certain extent knew what was happening. He's a keen eye for film himself. So even when he was jumping and throwing himself around, he was clearly making space for these duplicates of himself to be made in post-production. So, wow. Again, you have somebody like Bodis who's able to do that and then bear that in mind all in the moment before, that's 7 o'clock, we were losing light and he needed to do it and he did it.
Okay, I want to talk about this infinite zoom. People love it. I see it everywhere. Just break this one down for me.
This is a perfect example, again, of the location and the analog cinematography, and then fantastic post-production. We always knew that zooming in this location would create these amazing opportunities for this kind of, endless perspective. Then when we handed this over and discussed it with the McLaughlins, they were able to capitalize on what we'd shot and turn what could have been a 4-second dynamic shot and then speed it up and make it feel endless. So it's just that I feel like the magic within the piece, if you want to call it magic, is that just that combination of analog camera techniques, beautiful architecture that creates this perspective, and then, just being a little bit daring as the McLaughlins are with what they do with their effects.
You've chosen to go black and white mostly in the color palette.
That's one of the things that actually happened later. We actually shot it not with black and white in mind. And in the edit, there was always going to be a combination. One of the references was a Kendrick Lamar video had just come out, or maybe just after we shot it, and there was definitely a trend of mixing color and black and white in videos that we liked. And that was going to be the way we did it. But then when I was editing it, it was maybe V3. I just tried it all black and white, and then you know when something just clicks. That was it.
Yeah.
It was like, this is it. This is what it's supposed to be. And then I feel like that about a lot of things. I'm sure I did decide to shoot it black and white ages beforehand, but you're not really in conversation with yourself. When I looked through it, I was like, oh yeah, we did everything to make it monochrome. Everything about it should have been black and white. I feel like we made the decision without realizing we made the decision. And that's my favorite kind of thing, when it's like, oh yeah, kind of discovering your own answers.
I want to talk lighting cues here, because that seems to be a really, really crucial part of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the benefit of having the best team, and this is the combination of maybe 5 films I'd already been working with this, and the team had been the same producers, the same cinematographer, and the same gaffer. And we had built up a really organic shorthand, so that the cinematographer was David Bird and our gaffer was James Duffy. And basically, in the lead up to this project, we'd been shooting a lot of old buildings that has impressive architecture, and kind of playing with different ways of using light in those places. But so they knew kind of what I was going for, but they waited until the shoot day. We knew we were going to light in between these columns, but James pressed a button. They kind of kept it a secret from me, and they pressed a button and managed to make the lights, just by flickering on off all the way along the columns, created this like really amazing effect. So that was like them trying to get a rise out of me and get me excited on the day. And yeah, I lost my mind.
Really?
Amazing addition. I couldn't imagine without it.
I want to talk about this shot here.
Yep.
So cool. What's going on here?
Yeah, so this is one of the ones where it was done in later. So as I mentioned, we worked with the McLaughlin brothers for the vast majority of the VFX, and they just blew me away. They gave me kind of like a suite of different kind of options with different things they did, but then I needed to fill some gaps myself. So it's one of those things about like they were no longer available at that point of the edit. So I jumped in myself, and I'm a big fan of like not being the best specialist at anything. I'm not a specialist at anything, but I kind of know a bit, and I threw some of my favorite shots into After Effects, and I played from naivety. I didn't 100% know how to use time displacement, but I think that really made for a really fun kind of process, because I was just messing. I didn't know what the parameters were doing. I threw it in, and I was just like looking at what was happening, and then it was the most fun afternoon ever. And then because of the way Bodis was moving, you put that with time displacement, and then just like keenly observing when there was 3 or 4 seconds when there was something really special happening, and then you just cut it, make sure there's enough to fit into the edit. And I'm really pleased with. I think that's the thing. Sometimes I'm a really big fan of like effects and like camera trickery, or whatever you want to call it, feeling as organic as possible, feeling like you're playing. And definitely for that time displacement where his hands swing around, that was playing. That just happened in front of me when I was in After Effects, in the kind of a 6-minute clip where I was pulling all the parameters, and I was like, that's the slice I need. Yeah. So I think genuinely, I feel like we weren't copying effects. That's kind of where we were at. We were just trying not to copy effects. We were trying to make our own. We were trying to like get as many disparate elements as we could, and just like, we want to be referenced. We want to create new things, and we just want to be completely brand new. We threw the reference book out, and we just want to make something new.
That making something new, that playing with stuff. Do you feel like you guys had time to play here with this project?
Fortunately, we did. I think we did. I think we started it in April of 2021. It was finished within 2 months. And we had windows with the collaborators. We had a very short window with Bodis. We had a very short window for the specific things with the Kevin and Porrick McLaughlin. But I had time, if you know what I mean. I was able to sit with this edit for a good 2.5 months. And each collaborator had enough time. It's one of those fortunate projects where we definitely, I need to shout out the producers Harry and Sophie, and the line producer Jens. They are amazing. Like they made this the piece of work it is, because they kind of just like helped get these amazing collaborators, but then made sure they were all able to make something special. That's what we were always saying. Let's make something special here. We've too much going for this project for not everybody who's involved to do something really special.
I can't imagine this piece being what it is without the soundtrack. Can you just tell me about like how they came to be, who's responsible for it, and at what part of the process did that come into play?
The most important thing about this piece in terms of just like the timeline is all rooted in the music. The music comes first for me nearly in everything, like laying down something that it kind of like, because everything, so much of what I do is non-verbal. I need to have the framework built into the sound for me to fully start visualizing it properly. I built what I call a kind of Frankenstein track of FK Twigs, Aphex Twin, Radiohead, adverts that I like, and I built a tempo, and so I had the ebbs and the flows and the moments, and it's going to come up like this because Bodis and I had already come up with a general kind of skeleton of where it comes, and so me and Bodis came up with this 3-act structure. I took that away, built this Frankenstein from other tracks, and that gave me. It sounds terrible, I'm sure. It just sounds like, it just sounds like there was somebody changing the radio stations, but it had the right intensity and velocity.
Right.
And then gave it to Mr. Wise, and I said, this is what I want it. This is the tempo. These are the ebbs and flows. And he threw himself into it, and he just found something entirely unique in it, found the references in the art history and the statues, but made something so modern. I think we had maybe 4 or 5 versions, but it was by even version 1, we were still only tweaking. He really just nailed it.
Yeah, now this Frankensteinian reference track, did you show up to set with that? And did you play that on set when you were recording with Bodis?
So in rehearsals with Bodis, we did. By the time we were, because of the amazing producers, by the time we were shooting, we had the finished track done for the day. So he is dancing and moving to the finished music that you're listening to, essentially.
Wow. So you had the music borderline completed before you even shot anything.
And that was so sick. That's all of these little bits made it a bit better. All those movements when you see Bodis, so Bodis is reacting to the sounds of the music. So some of those clinking of his hands, I think it's in the 3rd quarter, that's him reacting to the sound design. And that would usually come later. Usually you make the sound design react to what you see on screen, but Bodis is actually reacting to the sound design there, and it added to the storytelling. It's this kind of evolving thing where everyone was collaborating with each other.
Wow. What a difference I'm sure that makes. I mean, I'm sure it would have been fine, right? If you had used the reference track, if you had used no music at all, it probably would have been fine. But because you guys had that, it just, I feel it gave it that little bit extra for his performance.
Absolutely. I think it would have been fine. And so often it is fine. And sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's good to be a little bit like freer with these things. But for this one, there's something so precise about this one. Something more precise than most things. It's because the architecture's so precise. Bodis is even though he looks like he's moving quite chaotically in moments, he did the same choreography 24 times throughout the day. So everything he's doing is pre-planned, premeditated. And I think sometimes projects need to be that precise for it to feel organic.
I mean, now that we've talked about this project and the importance of it, what was your filmmaking career like before it and now after? Was it instrumental in your career as a filmmaker?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it totally has changed my life, and all my films leading up to it were basically in order to make it. Definitely. I think what was my career leading up to it? It was a lot of work, like a lot of projects. I've probably leading up to that, I made 30 or 40 films. And I really did start with the fundamentals. Fortunately, I was making a lot of films about art, but I really did start shooting objects that people were selling, and trying to find cool ways of shooting objects, and how the camera moved, and then how you can light just an object, and what music will do to that. And then very shortly after that, you kind of push it out a little bit, and you get, well, what if we get a dancer to move? What if we get some people moving? What if we use set design, lighting design? And it really was as organic as that a lot of things just kind of, each film I tried something new that would lead to this. I hope that answers your question.
No, it absolutely did. I mean, so many filmmakers, me included, know that the filmmaking process, our careers are an evolution. But it's pretty amazing what you've done. I feel like a lot of filmmakers are aiming to make a project on the scale that you've made. Like, you've done a thing that a lot of filmmakers are just trying to do, which is make this lightning in a bottle project.
Oh, that means a lot. That means a lot. Because, I mean, that was it. I was, it means a lot that people like it. And because I was definitely the person watching all the Vimeo staff picks and seeing what music videos were cool and seeing what... I love this kind of world that I think we both inhabit of short form and using film craft to make something new. I think it's really, really... because everyone's in it together, and a lot of people... And I feel like it's quite encouraging. People are very encouraging of each other and really inspiring. I mean, I think I have an issue with references, as in direct references, because I really do feel like you can just watch... How much do we watch? We must watch thousands of films every month and just kind of like taking it all in and then trying to make something new. And I think with this project, what I'm most pleased about in terms of the references is that I definitely could point out specific camera things I'm referencing and stuff, but really it's a big bunch of like 14th century woodcuts and really obscure Greek and Roman statues, and really
love
like,
that.
all that stuff is much more evident to me. And I love that you can kind of take references like that, kind of cloak it in kind of modern techniques, and you can make something that's entirely your own. So that's the fun for me.
Yeah. References are an interesting thing. I mean, us being frame set, references is our bread and butter. It's what we do. But dare I say it, I think references, they don't need to be necessarily pulled straight from a film or an existing piece of work. I like the idea of taking references from something very old and organic, things that aren't even film, and utilizing them and transforming them into your version of that.
I think what Frameset does and what film, like references from stills from films does, is that it gives you a canvas. That is the canvas. It gives you how does something look through a camera lens, and then it can give you kind of compositionally and lighting and color-wise. But then what you're actually looking at, like literally what is the complex nature of how things interact with each other, you have to make that your own. That's what I think. I think Frameset gives you an opportunity to like find amazing film stills and things that people have done, but you have to view them all. I always view them as, you have to view them almost like kind of like a connect the dots kind of book.
Yeah.
You can see the dots, but you can totally start drawing your own picture with it. And that's when you bring in your own stuff.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, let's just talk about directing for a second. Being a director, what does that mean to you? Like, what do you think the role of a director is?
I think I definitely think I talk and think about that a lot. And I think a lot of people are directors. And I think anybody can be one if they want to be. And I definitely think that there's, for me, I'll just say what I think about being a director, and then I think what I think generally about it. For me, it's the only way I know how to do things. I started my career, I started shooting myself, but there's people who are better at shooting than me. I feel like directing is a lot about ambition. It's about ambition of your vision, because you can see I feel like it's being curious. I definitely feel like I remember when I was a kid and you'd watch Back to the Future, like special features when the DVDs came out. And you can see
on the DVD special features. Yeah.
Oh my God, DVD special features. What a godsend.
Dude, I would eat that up. Star Wars, I mean, all that stuff. I would like put in the second DVD special features all the way.
They're amazing. It's amazing they had all that footage. And then DVDs came at just the right time to like have this opportunity to see it. But I loved that. I loved how like things were made. I just remember distinctly like how they shot the floating skateboard in Back to the Future 2. And then I was just, I don't even think they did a good job of explaining how it worked in the special features. I just liked seeing all these people around figuring something out. And I was like, then it was like every single thing I'd seen, like when cinematography and production values just jumped so much in the 2000s, I was just so curious, like, how is that happening? Like, what is genuinely happening there? And I felt like it wasn't really my remit. I wasn't in film school. I went to art school, but I didn't have like a huge technical background. And then I was like, what if I just start saying that I'm allowed that I'm allowed to influence that kind of stuff? And I start saying I need these things. And it's about being ambitious and curious, and I think pushing the raw materials that are available to you to make something unique and totally yours. And I think it should be demystified a lot, like, because I think it's not about, in some ways, about innate talent. I think it's more about confidence, curiosity, and, you know, a lot of it is humility of saying other people are better than you at things. I think as a director, you have to really, really understand that the cinematographer knows a lot more than you do about certain aspects of filmmaking, that a special effects person knows an awful lot more about technically how something can be done, and even artistically how something can be done. And then actors, like, that is magic to me. Like, people performing, dredging up humanity when somebody's holding a machine in front of them, it's amazing. And I just feel like I have that curiosity and that admiration for all these elements of filmmaking, and I want to control it. I want to have the ambition to control some of those elements and make something that's totally uniquely mine, that's to my sensibilities. And I love that we can have a job like that. I do love it. And yeah, it's a very lucky career to have.
Yeah, I think most aspiring filmmakers know, you and I included, that filmmaking is absolutely a team sport, right?
Yeah.
But is there a certain person, crew member, or collaboration that changed the game in how you make your art, your film?
Yeah, there's a couple. It's definitely there's two that come to mind. One is cinematography. When I met David Bird, I was already working with lots of cinematographers, but I found somebody that he was doing more elaborate things than me. I'll tell you a little story. I met him on a music video set, and I was in the music video as an extra, and this guy rocked up that was the director's friend, and he was working on a big Hollywood feature, and he was allowed to take the lenses home for the weekend. And he rocked up with this lens, and I saw what a Hollywood lens looked like, and I made a beeline. I was like, I need to talk to this guy. And I just made it happen that we talked more. And then it just turns out it was really organic. Like, he was pushing to do something, and I wanted to push to do something, and we still push each other to this day. And, you know, you find somebody who's resourceful like him, and you try and challenge him, and you're open to his ideas, and you push each other. That's really helpful. And then another collaboration that sometimes I think maybe gets overlooked in terms of creative is producers. And when I met Harry Kamalanathan and Sophie Eid, who produced this and the 4 previous films, they brought to me so many kind of opportunities and ideas and consultation and kind of like conversation about filmmaking and support that has totally changed everything for me. I think making it feel like it's family and it's a team, and I have a role to be, you know, a problem solver and try and come up with creative new things, but then also to be really appreciative of people who make this stuff happen and how creative it can be to just bring the raw materials together and pushing each other. That's what's changed everything for me. Finding other people who wanted to push each other even further.
Yeah. I mean, on that, talk to me about set life. I love hearing how directors interface with the time clock machine that is set.
Yeah, I think it's funny, isn't it? I mean, this is probably a cliche to say, but directors probably spend the least amount of time on set than everybody else on set.
Yeah.
That's my favorite bit of my working life. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love getting up early. I love the kind of apprehension, and I love like the opportunity it affords to just like explore on the day. But set life, I mean, I think the one thing when I started, I always thought that being on set would be like, I don't want to say it's not fun, because it's really, really, it's really, really like lively, and it's worthwhile being there, and it's the only place I want to be. But I wouldn't say it's fun. What I actually find intoxicating about being on set when you're a director is just how much you need to be switched on. Like, this is your moment, right? This is your moment to make something. You've talked about it for so long. The raw materials are there, and then you've got all these it's always really high octane. I mean, the weather, the sounds, the various things that can influence it, things breaking, things not working, and like ultimately, like I kind of get high off the kind of just like compromise. I love the compromise you have to make on set on the day, and being kind of like, I'm making this call. This is what it's going to be. And this isn't going to work. Let's do this. We've got 4 seconds left. It reminds me of being a kid with my handy cam, and we had to go home when it was dark. I love that. It makes me feel like a kid again. So I love being on set.
Yeah. My favorite thing is making those tough decisions with other people, especially people that you trust, people you have shorthand with, when it comes to when things are at the 11th hour, light is fading, and you got to make a call, and it might not be the right one. There's like an energy there that it's intoxicating to me as well.
It's an amazing thing that filmmakers and film teams cultivate, isn't it? Because it feels so real. It feels so exciting in those moments, because day-to-day life doesn't matter when it gets dark, but on a film set it really matters. And I love that. I love that urgency.
Yeah, I want to switch up and talk about this thing, like bringing your vision to life, like this thing called vision. Like, what is that?
Yeah. So like, in terms of like bringing my vision to life, I find it funny. I love the word vision, and I find it funny sometimes when it's used, but also I think it's the one thing I kind of can contextualize that makes sense for me, that quite often ideas come as flashes, and I see exactly what they look like in like a 1-second flash. And then the job is to build the scaffolding around that 1 second and what needs to get there. And I think where I get ideas and why it probably works like that for me is because my North Star with all my filmmaking is figurative painting and art history. That is, I always say, like, I don't really follow sports. I follow art and art history. It's the thing I know about. It's the thing I reference in terms of whatever I'm doing. I think I always think I don't have, apart from specific reasons like in Bodis when I needed to have like pictures on set for him to emulate the poses, I have just like, I would look at a lot of paintings, and I go to a lot of museums, and I nerd out at regional museums, and when me and my fiance go on holidays, we go to a lot of cathedrals, and we just look at things and soak it all up. And I just have that in my memory banks, and that's what I love. And then when it comes to bringing my vision to life, it's kind of having those things in the back of my mind, and then using the integrity of those paintings is, and using that to inspire how I can carry it through this medium, because filmmaking is an entirely different medium. But I really enjoy, because I find in many instances all of the same factors are at play: the lighting, the composition, the feeling, and so usually I get ideas after I've just been away. I mean, Bodis is directly, I know it's inspired by having been in Italy very, very, very recently before having the idea, and just admiring the architecture, and just kind of, I don't walk around like with a notepad thinking about these things. I just go, I just like it. I just like being there, and I like filling up on that kind of, those kind of visuals, and then it'll come when I'm cycling or I'm in the shower. It'll come then afterwards. Somebody will say something and it'll twig a memory or a thought. And then, so I think it is a lot about like switching off for a while, and like not looking for the ideas, and let the ideas, I always think it's like, go looking for lots of stuff that might inspire you. Like, try and nourish yourself with things you enjoy, but don't say, I'm going to sit down and have an idea, because the best ideas just kind of happen, right?
Yeah, dude, I fully agree with that. Yeah, your interest, your love for art and art history is obvious if you spend any time watching your work. My question though is, like, when it comes to casting your vision for a project onto other people, whether it be a music artist, client, commissioner, colorist, how do you do this?
It's a good question. Again, it's. I like to feel like I'm part of a bigger process where I work with a lot of the same people, and I kind of introduce them to what I'm trying to do, with, not too many references, but 3 distinct ones. I don't have the biggest decks in the world, but my decks usually have 3 or 4 specific film references. Then there's always one key artwork. There's always one painting in there. And I know lots of people use paintings as the references, but the painting I'm using is the spirit of the project. It's the essence of what I'm trying to get across, and the like, in terms of, and that I can usually, because the inspiration for what I'm trying to do either comes from, a film or an artwork, usually I can find one that really captures the whole project, and then it kind of sets the tone for the whole thing. And I do usually be really, really direct with people, like colorists and even the cast. I show them the paintings. I show them, and I make sure that they know that there is a germ of this idea is trying to emulate this painting. Look at this painting, feel like this painting. I think that's really important, to not just hope that happens, like put all the materials together and just hope. I just really want that to feel part of what we're trying to do. I think it helps color, like a colorist might be working in varying degrees of projects on any day, but like it can be more commercial, feature film, or TV, and I need to make it very clear when I'm in the suite that we're trying to make something that's referencing art, that our goal here is to not necessarily fit into like what's cool right now in how films are shot or how TV is shot. We're trying to do this thing. We're trying to make something new. And people love it. It seems like a pretty fun brief. People are usually on board with kind of trying to do something new.
Yeah. I noticed that you edit most of your work. Do you like being the one to bring it all together in the end?
I mean, do I like it? Do you like it?
I don't like it. I can do it. I'm good at it. I don't like it.
Your work is incredibly well edited. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one part of the process that I struggle to let go of. I don't know why. Do you know, I think everybody gets into filmmaking for some reasons, and usually you have to be good at something, right? You have to be good at, some people are really good with cameras, and some people are like amazing actors, or have some sort of grounding in something. I'm not saying I was the best editor ever, but I know how to do it, and I have a way about how I like to edit that I can't show an editor a bunch of paintings and say edit like this. You know what I mean? I don't know quite how to I don't know how to let go, and I want to be able to let go. I do. Ultimately, I want to let go, but I have a few things I want to do. I think the edit's so important because it's the thing that you can break things in the edit and you can go too far. There's like a logic to editing that, like, this should happen here, this should happen here. And I'm kind of caught on trying to mess with that. But ultimately, I do want to let go of it because it's hard, man, isn't it? It's hard to be editing. It takes so long, and it's quite
so much toiling. So much emotional toiling, and sometimes at the cost of your reputation, my reputation, sometimes at the cost of other people's timelines, at the cost of my own sanity. But I have a hard time letting go too. I tell myself maybe I just haven't met the right editor yet. Maybe I haven't been fortunate enough to find the right collaborator in that way. But you're onto something there. I think it's like when you sit with an edit, you have the ability to make that thing completely new, completely different from what you shot. And the ability to do that as someone who came up with the concept from the beginning, I want to afford myself the ability to get in there and play with it to a level that, ensures it sees every opportunity it can. Maybe that's why I'm so attached to it, or it could just be simply like a trust thing. I don't know.
It's interesting. I mean, I definitely toil is a good word. I think the one thing, I don't know, people throw around this term flow state. Do you know flow state? I understand what flow state is.
I do too.
If you think about filmmaking, it's probably it's hard to get into a flow state with filmmaking because it's quite long. I certainly don't get into a flow state when I'm making treatments, and I certainly don't get into a flow state like on set because I'm it's some other thing, you know? There's too many other things going on. You'd be freaking everybody out if you were in flow state. You'd be high as a kite. But the edit is the one time that I can get into a flow state, and I can. I just want to see what the new thing is. If you get into that, when it starts working, or you lose all your distractions for 35 minutes, and then there's this edit in front of you, and you're like, oh yeah, it's like this unquantifiable thread you're following, and I love following that thread, and I don't know how to tell somebody to follow that thread.
Yeah. It's hard for me to get into that flow state, but I experience that flow state in the edit unlike any other, like running, working out, any other potential for me to get into a flow state cannot match the 4 a.m. edit streak that I can find myself into. It's like one of the only ways that I can experience a true flow state, but it's hard to get into it sometimes. Did you find it tough to get into that? Totally.
I mean, I remember, I don't want to get too, I'm a bit of an kind of like I believe in a bit of magic, Dylan. I'm a bit of
that's good.
I'm definitely in touch with like the kind of the magic and the spirits of all this filmmaking thing. And I distinctly remember the first time I achieved flow state, making something on a timeline-based media, if you can imagine that. And I remember being so excited. I was just messing around with, I think it was Flash Animator. Do you remember Flash, using Flash to animate things? And I took one of my drawings, I had a man drawn and he had brain cells, and I made all these little cells in his brain move up and down the stems of his, the inside of his brain as I drew it. And just because that was something I had kind of seen, but I didn't know how to do it before until I taught myself playing around at 3 a.m. on Flash when I was 18. I was just intoxicated by it. I was like so excited. I was like, this is something special to me personally. I enjoyed it. I found something that was to my taste and I was able to create it. And I guess to a certain extent, that's what I'm chasing with every project. Mm-hmm. I get sad, like Bodis 100%. When I was editing that's probably the edit 10. I don't remember editing it as it is. I don't remember it. I was 4 a.m. in the studio, and I was moving things around. I knew it was going to be pretty good, but it could have just been passable, you know what I mean? And then there was one night where something happened. These amazing disparate elements put together in this particular way, it all worked. And I loved that night. It was very, like, you're very alone in that moment, but I was like, that's good. That's going to be a thing. And I'm always chasing that. And I'm sad.
Yeah.
You can definitely make something good without getting to that moment by just using collaborators. But I think I'm obsessed with the magic, finding the magic moment.
Yeah, I can relate to that. There's sometimes no better high than finding that one transition, that one clip, that one moment that you've been tweaking forever, and then you find it, and it's just like the best feeling ever. And you're right, it doesn't always happen.
No, it doesn't always happen. And it can be good without it, but I think I love that bit because it's, that word craft, I don't know how I feel about the word craft and filmmaking, because it's also, it's not.
What do you mean?
Tangible. It's not tangible.
Go into that.
Craft. I don't know. I think I struggle with the word craft and then kind of timing and, visuals, that there's nothing tangible at the end of it. There's something, because I went to art school and I like making things and I love paintings. I love how tangible they are. And sometimes with films, there's nothing tangible. I mean, I need to get posters made or something. I don't know. I need something physical. So I think it's just
tactile.
But I guess the closest thing to my mind, I mean, this is no slight on production design and people making things to be on screen and stuff. But when I'm making a film, I'm not really thinking about I always think of the end result. The film is the thing. The film is when it's named and it has its own quality. And I guess the closest thing I can get to being kind of like making something physical is in the edit. It feels quite physical to me. It's quite tiring, isn't it? Even the timeline. The timeline is a mess, but it's physical. It looks a bit like a statue in itself. So that's how I feel about craft. I think there is craft in it, and definitely, but I wonder maybe the director's role in the craft of it. I don't know. I have a funny relationship with that.
Yeah. What's next? Are you thinking about going narrative?
Yeah, definitely. I think everything that's led up to Santo was about pushing. I always wanted to do the new thing, the different thing, try and be kind of like nosy and venture into places I wasn't necessarily asked to be. And so the same team that made Santo, we've made a 50-minute short that we've just wrapped on that hopefully is going to
Cool.
break some new ground. And also because I wrote it with this amazing writer, Claire Hoey, we wrote it together. But it's set where I'm from, and it's my past and my world is set in it. I'm from the west of Ireland, from a place called Ennis, and I've spent my career helping others tell their amazing story, and through these kind of artistic, kind of filmmaking ways. And I really wanted to see what I could do if I mined from where I came from and the visuals I saw. And that's what's next. It's called Farmers! !
Dude, I'm excited to see it.
Can't wait to share it. It's going to film festivals now, but it'll be on Vimeo someday. Can't wait.
You touched on this a little bit before, but what do you think you've learned in your past work that you think equips you for what's ahead? Like techniques, relationships, experiences, going into this next season in your filmmaking journey, what are some of those things where you're like, this is something that I'm holding on to forever that's going to help me with my career?
I think like the form in films matters an awful lot to me. And what I mean by that is like the composition, how we make the film. I think there's how many different ways are there to skin a cat? There's so many different ways to make films. And the thing I want to carry through narrative work and feature film work is still to be ambitious and try and do something new with the form the film takes. And that's like, I think a big inspiration for me is Roy Andersson and how he does genuinely make films that look like paintings. But there's technicalities involved in that, like locking off the camera, incredible attention to detail in the set design and how everybody's placed. And I want to be inspired by that, but find my own way in, if you know what I mean. I feel like there's no reason why those kind of strict formalistic ideas can't be applied to a scripted narrative. And I want to find my way in by pushing boundaries, making new things, be the reference, and feeling kind of confident in that. I feel like there's lots of ways into this industry and lots of ways to tell stories. And what I've learned from my path is people are open to it. There's a lot of I like how filmmakers that I look up to have demystified filmmaking, and I think they demystified it by making whatever the hell they wanted to make, rather than feeling you have to do things a certain way and there's all these barriers. If you have an idea in your head of what it could look like, go the most direct route to that and be daring. And that's what I want to do with my long form stuff.
It's easy to overthink it, isn't it? I do it all the time. I think my way, strategize my way out of, I think, my most authentic work. Do you ever feel that? Do you ever do that?
Absolutely. I think expectation and, especially when, you might be entrusted with a budget and entrusted with a brief, and there's somebody has a vested interest in this beyond you. You have, and I've learned this the hard way, you can't let go of that either. I think that's in the complete opposite of what I've said as well. You have to temper yourself, and you have to be mature, and you have to make things work for various other people. You have to live in the real world. And it's very easy. It's very easy.
What a balance. What a balance there, huh?
It's very easy to overthink it and get it totally wrong. And then it's very easy to go too far, too avant-garde, too individual to your vision, and lose people along the way. And ultimately it'll stopper it. It does happen. And I've learned the hard way a few times. Like, I'm pleased. I think failure and things not working out quite like they should have is just the best. Like, it's the best, because it means you're actually doing it. You can't get good at something without messing it up a good few times. And I think this is the thing with filmmaking. You've only messed it up when the people that helped you make it, or allowed you to make it, or ultimately wanted to show it, didn't like it and aren't pleased. You have to thread that line of pushing boundaries and also impressing them, and then impress everybody. And it's damn hard, but that's the balance.
Dude, yeah, I want to talk about messing up. because I think if anyone's done enough work, they've messed up.
Yep.
Like messed up big.
I've messed up big, I think, a few times. And honestly, each time I look back on the times I messed up big, it's the best thing that ever happened to you. It is, you have to view it that way. It's definitely like, and it can happen at every process of the process, right? When you're a younger filmmaker, the number one thing you want to do is get a treatment in with a big brand, get a big commercial. I've definitely got down to the last two, and then I've messed up the one-on-one call at the end, or I haven't quite said the right, and then I've like cursed myself for months afterwards. I'm saying I'm useless. But then you kind of get this fire in your belly and you want to go again, and you find sometimes those things are the best signifiers of where you're not supposed to go, and you just kind of like, you reach that dead end and you circumnavigate it and you find your route. Because I actually think what's for you won't pass you. And I think failures are actually just really good guardrails to help you get into like somewhere really special. Messing
what's
up
for you won't pass you.
What's for you won't pass you. And messing up, failure, it not working out, it's just helping you get to where you need to go. Because it's very easy to do something passable, but to mess up, I think you've probably done something good. Like I've had things pulled, I've upset people with what I've created, and some clients unhappy, pulled, scrapped. I'm delighted, in hindsight, delighted, because I was trying at least. And you have to be willing to try something and learn from it. Like, and these things happened earlier in my career. And honestly, if I'm being totally honest, I was devastated. I've been devastated. I've been devastated by things not working out or something not working, and I felt so bad. But at the end of the day, the only person who felt bad was me. And usually there's a solution for we're going to say a client is upset and they want something else. They'll get something else. And you can help them do that. And it's all very mature. But my internal kind of pain at finding my creativity rejected, I used to find really, really hard. And I would be very sore afterwards. But now I'm just so grateful that I had those experiences, because you can't get good. You can't get good without, trying things, and also learning that this industry and this work is a lot about, rejection, things not quite working out, and then finding a new way and finding another route. And that's a really big part of it. Unless there's other filmmakers who it's all green lights. I don't know. It's not all green lights. It's a lot of
I doubt it.
Crushing blows. And you can kind of, I don't know, have a mantra. I was like, crushing blows, make them the best thing that ever happened to you, because there has to be something to gain from them. And there's certainly nothing to be gained from being deterred by them. Wow,
That's so strong, man. I think so many people are, me included sometimes, are afraid of those blows. But I try and just get good at those feelings, those negative feelings. I try and address them when they come in and just be comfortable in that. And then learn how to, because I used to get overwhelmed by feeling that way, and then I couldn't perform. Like I couldn't do anything, you know? And so pushing past that is tough, but I think honestly, just part of the process for any filmmaker who wants to create the work that they want to create at a high level.
Do you know it's a really good thing to do? Read or listen to So You've Been Publicly Shamed by John Ronson. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't, no.
It's a book, and I think he made a podcast about it, and it's just about all these people who ruined their lives by, say, like tweeting the wrong thing and being cancelled. It's kind of pre-cancelling. And you hear these awful stories about people going through real sincere hardship. But when you get a crushing blow, right? You're like, the film's not going to happen. You know, they've decided to go a different direction, and it's all gone. All the work's gone, or they don't like what you had in mind, and they want to go with something bigger, more established. And you're just like, no. You know, contextualizing it in how other people go through such hardships, and I think rooting it in something that's like realistic. You don't want to just say some people are starving, because it's too much, because obviously we're already so privileged. But when you have these kind of crushing career blows, find something to remind yourself that what's happened isn't so bad. Like, it could be so much worse. And all people who've done anything worthwhile overcome these crushing blows, and life goes on, and there's always a few months down the road something new, and you won't remember it.
I think the thing you said earlier, just about, you can toil and hurt over this thing, but at the end of the day, who is it hurting the most? It's hurting you, the client, the agency, the people that you think you've maybe even hurt. They're going to move beyond it, and it's like it's not at the end of the day, it's not worth me just being in pain when I don't have to be.
And you have to. I think the pain is good. Pain means you care, and however you feel, because I think the word is embarrassing. It's embarrassing to fail, isn't it? And it's really hard to be embarrassed, and it feels so intensely real when it doesn't go your way, and you find it this huge, complete judgment of you as a person, and you're embarrassing, and the other person is less embarrassing, or the other route, or what you did was embarrassing, and they want to go another route. But then when you get older and you work a lot, you as a directors, we have to decide on people all the time, cinematographers or collaborators, and oftentimes we'll have options. And very often you go with somebody else, not because the other person is like just better, plainly. It's something different. It's about the spirit of what the project is, and there's a need for different people for different things and different solutions. I think that's really heartening to kind of remind yourself of, because it reminds you that you have to do your own thing. Because I definitely, when I was younger, thought I was, trying to get projects that weren't true to my spirit. And when I only focus on what I think I can really, really amplify, and where I can think what I want to do can really, really do something new in a different space, then I'll give it everything. But if I ever find myself in a position where I'm straining to make my work look like somebody else's or be something else, I run away from that now. And also, if I ever get turned down for something that I'm pitching on, and I'm true to the kind of work I make, and they don't go with me, I don't get upset anymore. I'm just like, they didn't want what I'm doing. That's absolutely fine, because I can't do the other thing.
What do you think the hardest part of your job is? Is there a thing that you're not good at, but you have to do?
I think sometimes when you're so used to filmmaking, I'm trying to get better at filmmaking and making films, and like what the end result is on screen. And I'm trying to be ambitious and take in other elements, like a lot more acting, script writing, post elements I hadn't considered before. And then things that came easier to me at earlier in my career, I find incredibly tiring now and challenging. Like, we all have to juggle projects, so you're far along in one project, and then you have to make a treatment for a new project, and physically writing things. Like, I was a graphic designer. I find doing treatments incredibly challenging now. I don't know if I've forgotten how to design, but just physically doing them now. I think we do fill up, where our bucket fills up. And there's certain things when I'm so trying to learn a new aspect of filmmaking that earlier aspects become the easier ones from my past become challenging now. So very early stages of pitching and writing about what it could be, and I find more challenging now because I'm usually so far along in one of my projects that's fully realized, and sometimes this seems just incredibly challenging. I think it's just that wheeling back to different times in the project. I find that very, very challenging.
Yeah, that context switching can do a number on you. It would be so much easier if we could just focus on one project at a time.
Yes. Yeah. That's never happened to me.
I mean, other than narrative, other than making, telling stories, making films and movies, is there a project, is there a type of work, something creatively that you've been wanting to do that you haven't done yet?
Yeah, I think what I want to do is to get into every space that I find exciting. I've done a lot of work in the art world, and that's a place I feel very at home, and I understand it and I can contextualize things. But I want to take what we've done there and bring it to different even in the commercial space, like how would our style using the kind of camera work and special effects we use, how would that be done for an Apple ad or a Nike ad or something short form? And then also, what could that be done in a museum space, like physically? And what could it be done in sculpture? And what can be done like physically? I mean, I'm just interested in like taking the seed and the germ of the idea and bringing it across lots of mediums. I mean, narrative is a good place because you get to do an awful lot, and it's various setups, and you carry it over just a longer timeline, and you have different setups, and there's more story to tell. But I come from like what originally inspired me were music videos and TV commercials in the 90s and early 2000s. And that's what's inspired me now. And we have these channels to show this kind of work, like Vimeo, and there's an online audience and, you know, some commercial and content work. But I still would love to, you know, make a music video that made a statement like the way an Aphex Twin music video made a statement in 1998, and make a commercial like the way Jonathan Glazer's commercials made a statement. And I think all those spaces have changed. I don't necessarily think you need money. I think because the money is not there in the commercials as much anymore. But I do think you need belief. And that's a big part of why I'm doing the narrative work, is to get people to believe that on a larger scale, some of these ideas could work for, you know, things that have spots that have a lot of stakeholders. So that's what I want. I'm pushing myself to try and do that. Get people to believe in me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, commercial's fun. Commercial's a fun world, isn't it? Have you done much work in the commercial space?
To a certain extent I have, but always, I think luckily for my style, it's always for art clients, for all the big art clients, museums, auction houses. I've done stuff for fashion brands, and that's always worked out well. There's just such a big link between my references and that world. But I am intrigued to see, sometimes I shy away from doing treatments for other sectors, but I'm intrigued. If the right one came along, I would love to see what we can do.
Yeah. Well, Freddie, listen, I want to wrap this up by asking you, you know, what question haven't I asked you yet? The ball's in your court here. What do I need to know about Freddie that I haven't inquired about?
I don't know. Two things came to mind there. I think when younger directors contact me to chat now, and I do talk to them, I'm always amazed. People always ask, like, how do you get to do work where, you know, you get to make cool looking stuff and, you know, other people pay for it, and, you know, there's an inbuilt kind of infrastructure around it. And I think it's all the hidden work, it's all the hidden films, and not saying no to things, and like not everything you make. I've made so many films like that aren't on my Vimeo, but I really loved making them all, and they all influence the big showpieces. And I feel like in some ways that's lost now. It's not translated as much. I think sometimes people think it's just about getting signed to being put on a big roster, and then you make something great, and then everything's kind of laid out and organized for you. And I think the world has changed, and I think it's about being really resourceful and making a lot and finding the new now, like what's new and how do you navigate this really, really different world that we're in now? And just being really agile and like up for making. I can't believe I said agile, but like, you know, being really, really up for making stuff.
Yeah.
Making stuff get stuck in, and stop waiting for somebody to pay you or say you can do it, and saying you're good enough to do it. Just do it. Just doing stuff, and have that kind of inbuilt kind of spirit that you want to do it. And the other thing that came to my mind was being Irish. I don't know why that came to my mind. And being from the west of Ireland and being from Ennis.
Yeah, what's it like being Irish?
It's great. I love it, Dylan. It's brilliant. I love being Irish.
I don't know anyone who's Irish. That's a problem. Me with my red hair, you would think I would know more people who are Irish, but
I thought there was some Irish in you, Dylan. Definitely.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I think, what do I mean? Not to be too flippant about it, but being Irish is really important to me. And being Irish and also involved in the art world. When I grew up in Ennis in County Clare, there wasn't many museums around, and I felt like the things that most inspire me to make films have no contextual link. What do I mean by contextual link? No direct link to where I grew up or what I was doing when I was a kid, but I do think they are there, and I do think there's art history everywhere, and there's culture everywhere, and I've found like this real, because of the internet and TV, this real applicable appreciation for fine art and paintings in the rural countryside, because the links are there. That's why I believe in magic and spirits still. I see the links.
Yeah.
I just think it's an important part of my work, and I hope comes through in what I'm doing when some of the new projects come out, that the fine art's still there, even though we're looking at different things.
Yeah. Well, Freddie, thanks so much. I really appreciate your time, man. It was great getting to talk to you.
Thanks, Dylan. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
This has been a production of Frameset. We're trying something new here and plan to make a whole lot more of these. So light up the comment section with feedback. Thank you.